Hello, my name is Dominik Kreiss, and I'm very happy to talk about our research concerning undecided voters and forecasts. Together with Thomas Augustin, we're both from the Department of Statistics at the LMU in Munich. This talk is based on the paper Undecided Voters, The Set-Valued Information Towards Forecasts under Epistemic Imprecision. To give a brief overview, I prepared this slide. As the title already said, we concern ourselves with undecided voters in an election. And if you think about an election, it is more or less a choice amongst a finite set of alternatives by a lot of individuals at a given point of time. And at this given point in time, everybody has to make up their mind. They have to either not vote at all, which is a choice as well, or they have to choose one of those parties or candidates. But we concern ourselves with prediction, with forecasting, which is obviously in a previous point of time. And at this point of time in the last few years, more and more people do not seem to make up their minds about their choice, their eventual choice. So there are more and more undecided individuals in pre-election polls, in pre-election surveys, which cannot make up their mind, which maybe can exclude some parties, but cannot provide one precise party they are certain to vote for. So they are undecided voters. And in conventional modeling, this is a dilemma because conventionally, only precise answers are allowed. So you can only give one precise party or you're neglected. And if you think about that, first giving as an undecided voter one precise party is not really a viable option because you're still pondering between options and it would not be a truthful representation of your position. And on the other hand, if you're neglected, if you only think about missing not at random structures, this is not that great either. So we suggest to provide consideration sets, to provide the undecided with the option to give a set-valued answer, to just list all the parties they are indifferent between, they cannot choose, excluding all the parties they are certain not to vote for, which leads the undecided to be determined or positioned by a set rather than only one element or being neglected. And this set, this element containing all the options the undecided is pondering between, obviously contains the one true choice, the one they are going to end up voting. And this is also called epistemic imprecision, considering this set only as a coarse version of this one true value, which is not known yet. And with this on epistemic imprecision, we can go towards forecasting, we can estimate transition probabilities in those considerations at obtaining overall estimation. And different assumptions and sources of information are available, and one always has to weigh the strength of the assumptions with the precision of the results. So we provided 3 different possible ways to go here, 3 different models within this paper. One of them being the Dempster bounds as the most cautious way, providing interval-valued results, not relying on such strong assumptions. And 2 other models, one utilizing the decided with a rather rigorous assumption, and a further one utilizing the past election, also quite strong assumption, but we go into that later on. Now the rest of the talk is structured in 4 parts. First we go over motivation and introduction, then more on the approaches, results, and in the end, a brief outlook to the discussion I'm very much looking forward to at the conference. So first, let's focus on the set-valued response again. As I said, the undecided are allowed to provide a set rather than only one element, and now each individual is assigned an element from the power set of the original options determining their position. So not the original options, but the power set of them, consisting of all the options the individual cannot exclude the one they are pondering between, and from now on this will be called consideration set following Augustin. Now, as a consequence, the decided individual is represented by a set with only one element, while the entirely undecided one is represented by the set containing all the options, and there are all the stages in between. And if you think about it, the entirely undecided individual does not really give any information because he or she is undecided between all the elements, but if, for example, an undecided only lists 2 parties and there are, let's say, 6, like in the German parliament, this is valuable information and we can use that information. If we use it in the right way, this would be a natural way to improve estimation overall, because we have information. More information is always better for a statistician, so we do not waste the information. Now, set-valued data under epistemic imprecision, there's a broad background concerning epistemic imprecision. Groundwork was laid by, for example, Kreiss et Dubois, and this provides an especially interesting example of this theoretical groundwork. And as already mentioned, the set can be seen as of a coarse version of a yet unknown element the individual ends up choosing. And this is called epistemic imprecision and focuses obviously on the election outcome. There's also ontic imprecision. We did some research in another paper there, but I'm not going to go into that at this point in time. And further information and or information has to be utilized to obtain more concise statements about the eventual choice, because we do not know what the undecided will choose, and we have to use further information or further assumptions what they're going to end up choosing. So now more on the approaches and application. First, our data. Our data was from the German longitudinal election study, which is a state-of-the-art pre-election poll in Germany for the most recent German federal election of 2017. As in most conventional research, the undecided are neglected. Here as well, there's not those considerations that provided, but there is party assessment provided with which consideration sets can be constructed, which leads us to the plot right here on the top, giving all the consideration sets and precise answers which are constructed. And for reasons of simplicity, we only focus on those undecided between 2 parties, which are in fact the biggest group of undecided individuals. And as I said before, there's quite some information in providing 2 parties instead of providing all where there's not that much information. Now, for the forecasting, as there's no information about the final choice of the undecided provided, so we just don't know what party or what choice, if you always include not voting, those undecided choose, either rather strong assumptions have to be made or the uncertainty has to be manifested in the results using interval valued identification. And there we have this Mansky trade-off, justifiability of the assumptions and the precision of the results, which you have to ponder between. And we estimate transition probabilities, allocating and possibly imprecise probability towards each element of the consideration set. And with the transition probability, overall forecasting can be obtained. Now, the latent likelihood can be factorized into 3 parts, and imprecise transition probabilities lead to overall estimation. I printed here the central formula, and as already said, the likelihood, looking for the overall results, which can be seen as a multinomial distribution, can be divided in 3 parts. One, the transition probabilities, allocating a probability to each element of the consideration set. So given the consideration set, the probability to vote for one specific party. Then the consideration sets, how probable are the consideration sets and covariables. One thing I have to mention here is that the decided are within this transition probabilities as well. And the transition probabilities are obviously 1 for decided because consideration set only consists of 1 element. And here we can factorize that in 3 parts, enabling overall estimation. And as mentioned, the transition probabilities can be interval valued, and then obviously the overall estimation will be interval valued following Mansky's spirit, or generally the spirit of imprecise probabilities. Now, in the approaches and sources of information, first an overview. What do we have? We have a period n-1, so there was an election 4 years ago, We have our current period, and within this period, we have the decided individuals, the decided voters in the pre-election poll, which are capable to state this one element. We have the undecided voters in power set form, and there are potential information, streams of information towards the undecided voters. There could be expert knowledge and priors, there could be information from the past election and information from the decided, with which estimation of transition probabilities can be obtained, and together with the decided voters, overall forecasting can be obtained. This is just the overview of all possible sources of information. Not all sources of information are used here, and the decided are within the set of all the parties, while the undecided are within the power set, and the transition probabilities allocate this probability to vote for one of those parties provided with the information of the consideration sets. So now let me go through our approaches. First of all, the conventional approach. The conventional approach is to neglect the undecided overall. We just do a missing completely at random or missing at random assumption, going directly from the decided voters towards forecasting, neglecting the undecided overall. And that is the big difference. We want to utilize this information. We want to use it to improve our estimation. So now for our first approach, we use the Dempster bounds, which are the most cautious way to model it, as there's no really an assumption necessary, as all the uncertainty is manifested in the results, in the set-valued results. I'll show you the results later on, so you can see that. And we go from the decided to the transition probabilities, interval valued, and together with the decided, we go to interval valued forecasting. Within the second approach, we use a structural similarity assumption. We say that the undecided voters, given covariates and given the consideration set, so using the information of the consideration set, behave identically to the decided voters. So we take the information from the decided voters towards the undecided, here the decided towards the undecided, then provide point valued estimation of the transition probabilities using this rather rigorous assumptions, leading to point valued forecasting overall. Now for the third approach, we use the last period, assume constant transition probabilities. We just assume that the undecided in the last period behave the same like the decided in this period, which is quite rigorous as well, again leading to point valued estimation. Now for the results are shown in 4 figures here because the Dempster probabilities are distributed in lower probabilities and upper probabilities. And as you can see, the lower probabilities are really smaller than the upper ones, manifesting the uncertainty within this range between lower probability and upper probability. Now the estimation based on the decided and the constant transition probabilities is roughly similar, but there are differences, and one always has to keep in mind that a lot of individuals are decided and some are undecided, so there's always naturally some similarity here. Now for the discussion, I'm very much looking forward to the discussion at the conference. I provided a quite brief outlook, so we could incorporate several sources of information in a Bayesian method. I showed you all the possible informations, for example, expert information, which is frequently used or which is quite essential actually for forecasting in elections. And we could also implement that in a set-valued manner, for example, give set-valued expert options or expert option that is not precise, and we can implement set-valued approaches not reliant on such strong assumptions. So again, what did we do? We looked at the undecided voters as a special type of uncertainty, utilizing consideration sets with epistemic imprecision to achieve or obtain estimation forecasting, not neglecting the undecided voters. There are 3 different approaches. Our approaches here are only exemplary approaches. They should and can be improved and will be improved, and we can pick that up in the discussion. And thank you for your attention a lot. I'm very much looking forward to the discussion. I'm very much looking forward to the conference, and I'll see you there. Bye.